This is Bam Electric Ghost doing a live on the air with Michelle Galoob, and we're going to talk to you today about your story and what you do. But we're going to, before we get into all that, we always ask every guest, what is it that motivates you and why do you do what you do?
I love that question. Okay, so why do I do what I do is because I feel honored and blessed that I'm able to see people for who they are when I'm connecting to them through a session. I can connect to their souls. So I am not um judging them by, you know, by what they might have done in their lives or what they haven't done or by the way they look. So because we all come here with baggage, and a lot of times we judge people for their baggage. And so why I do what I do is to help people see who they truly are in the way that I'm able to see them, baggage free.
Well, I
And
think that,
that's me.
yeah. Well, that's a clear vision of what you want to do. And what made you want to get into being an intuitive guide, coach, and spiritual mentor? What is that something that you
Oh, I never thought to become that. It was
just
in
happened?
fact, it was the last thing I thought
Last
about.
thing.
Yes, I was I had a fashion business, and then I worked for a nonprofit. I was very much left brain kind of girl. I did not want to do any of this stuff. Um, However, I was very intuitive, and um, how it all happened is that I was at rock bottom in my life. I was feeling really stuck and broken. I was no longer interested in a 9 to 5 kind of position. I was like, oh gosh, this again. It felt like mind numbing.
The
When
rat
you
race.
when you're
Yeah,
going through the
it's not very
motions,
satisfying.
right? So and I always felt like I was here for a purpose, and I'm missing the boat here, and I could be here for another 20, 30 years. What am I doing? So I don't know. There were so many different areas, not only in the work department, but so many different areas that you know, weren't jiving, weren't working well.
Mhm.
Um, and so I really hit a rock bottom. I was like, I don't know what to do. I really don't know what to do. I'm so stuck. And it was the first time in my life that I'd actually turned to the universe for help as opposed to the friends around me.
Mhm.
And I begged for help. I was like, please help me. I'm so miserable. And and I saw my spiritual teacher who had passed away a few months earlier in my bedroom. Um, like I'm seeing you right now on the
Mhm.
screen. I saw him. It was a crazy experience. I freaked out because this wasn't what I was used to. And he's talking to me, and he's saying, I heard your prayers. And you know, these are the solutions and he pinpointed every single thing. And it was like I'd seen the light, and all my answers were right there in front of me. And I had this sense of calm and peace, and it was an incredible experience. So obviously I wanted that to happen again because it was it was insane. It was insane to me. Um
Mhm.
and I begged for this thing to happen again after that. And shortly after, I started to hear voices in my left ear. And being the left brainy kind of person that I was, I I thought that I was schizophrenic. I thought something happened to me. I was like, "Oh no, something's wrong with me." And it turned out what I was hearing, I thought were my own thoughts, but it was actually guidance. And I knew things about people. I didn't understand how I knew things. So I kind of fell into this. It wasn't something that
You kinda
I
opened the
chose.
door. Like
I opened
something
the
like
door.
yeah, because sometimes what happens is like, I believe in a lot of spirituality. I'm part Cherokee, Blackfoot,
Yeah. Oh,
and there's
okay.
like the idea of like spirit animals and and the earth talking to us,
Oh yeah,
right? And it
100%.
talks to us like through spirit animals that go walk into the. I live in New Hampshire. Go walk in the woods, and animals like would walk up to me, and people, being with with me were like, "What the heck?" And they would just like, be there and like sit there and stare at me and kind of communicate. And people are like, "What's going on? What's this?" And it's like, if you're open to things in the universe, then things happen. You'll
Yes,
hear voices, like
100%.
animals will come to you, birds will come to you, and they'll be like signs. Things will happen, and it's a lot of people don't miss these signs because they're like, too much like your left right brain is like, oh, logic driven world can't listen to that. But if you're Eastern or more indigenous, you will listen to it.
100%. My father passed away in August, and he was born on the 1st of November, November 1st. And he would always say, up until his like last moments, because he had dementia, so he forgot so many things. But the one thing he remembered, if I would say, "So, Dad, when are you born?" He would say, November 1st, November 1st. Since he's passed away, I see 111, 11 all the time, like every single day. So now I'm like, hi, Dad,
Yeah,
all the time. So
they talk to you.
yes, it
Things
is
happen.
about being open.
Yeah, you have to be the universe. Like if being a musician, like a lot of musicians, will hit the wall. But if you're willing to like listen to the muse, like there's a muse, there's like the universe.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of I deal with musicians who are kind of in the same mindset, but like it will just come to you. It will just
Yes.
it will just come through. There's a story with Hendrix. I'll just briefly say Hendrix was in a session with like the Isley brothers, and they were in a recording studio, and something just came to Hendrix, and he went and put something down, had nothing to do with the song. And they said, "What are you doing? You're wrecking the song." He said, "Like the universe gave me this, and I had to put it down." And he was very much the type of guy, like a musician, that, like if it came through, he would go with it. And some people just don't read that. They
Right.
reject it. But
And
if you're
that's the magic. That
yeah,
is the magic. Like people, there's who was it? The one who wrote Harry Potter. I feel like that just came to her.
yeah,
Um, you know, that's where the magic lies. So when we
you,
get into our heads about things, you're
you
like
wreck it.
blocking that flow. You're blocking the magic. Yeah.
Yeah, because so many
It's
people,
crazy.
there's a flow state, and then they reject it. Like if
Yes.
I'm in IT, like on software design, and sometimes like there's a happy accident, and you get a project manager that's real kind of anal about it, and they're like, "That's not on the plan.
Yeah.
What we have here is better than your plan. It something just came to us that's better than what we were doing. We should like drop it." And if you're in, and I've actually gone into smaller companies because I was in bigger companies, they would not go with things. And I'm more with like smaller teams or smaller companies, more entrepreneurial. They're willing to listen to like the artist type, creative type mindsets.
Yeah.
And I was getting frustrated hitting a wall with people who were saying they want people like that, but then they really didn't really want us because they usually put us in the corner and they wouldn't really listen to us.
Yes. Wow. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like when a lot of us are so stuck in what we think is best for us that we don't even realize there's so much more. There's like a master plan. And when we allow ourselves to be open to this master plan, you know, um, and be guided, that plan is way better than the one that we ever thought about. Like way better.
It's hard because there's a difference between like intuition and ego, right?
Yes.
Now, how do you explain that?
So I'm going to explain it through a little story of mine. Okay, so when I first started doing sessions, I I was doing a session for a woman who is like 75 or something, and I kept seeing an image of her jumping out of an airplane. But my ego, my logical brain, told me it is impossible that this woman is going to be jumping out of an airplane at her age, like impossible. And so yeah, so what happened? So I didn't want to tell her because I was like, I'm gonna look bad. I assumed she would never do it, so there is no way I'm gonna tell her. I don't tell her a thing. The session's over. We're like an hour into our session, and my guides kept repeating, "You've got to tell her, you've got to tell her." And there was this fight between what was coming through and and you know and this information that I didn't want to tell her. I just felt like a fool. I felt like I would look like a fool. I felt like she would think of me that way. Forget about it. Anyways, eventually I tell her the session's done, and I tell her, I'm like, listen, I don't understand this, doesn't make sense, but this is what I saw. She starts bawling, and it was the missing piece of the puzzle for her. All of it. The missing piece of the puzzle. She used to skydive in her 20s. Like, it was her thing.
Passion.
It was her thing. Yeah. So it was like the perfect message for her.
Kind of reminder of what she used to do.
Right. Well, there was an underlying message that was all related to that, but the point is, had I not told her anything because of my ego, so the ego is the logical mind. We assume, we receive our messages and then we put our spin on it. Like, oh, well, there's no way that it could mean this because, logically it doesn't make sense. So if we want to put our egos aside, it's always the first thing that comes to us intuitively that we should just go with. Mm-hmm. So if you get a message, you get an intuitive hit, which we all do. It's not just me. I'm not like this intuitive guru. Everybody, we all have it. So when we get our intuitive hits, we should go with it and trust that that's what was coming through.
I think it's real important because we live in an age where people are always trying to be so perfect. Yeah. And I've run into it. Like I work as a producer with younger musicians, and they run into this perfection trap. And I'm more of like, there's no bad note. There's an opportunity.
I love that.
And yes. So that kind of comes from like Herbie Hancock played with Miles Davis, and they were playing a session, and he hit the wrong chord for the song. He thought Miles was going to kill him. But Miles actually changed the song to match Herbie's chord.
Wow.
And later told him, like, you shouldn't worry about that. That's how, this is what fusion is about. This is how we evolve the song. This is how we evolve the pieces, how we come up with new pieces. And then he realized, like, I shouldn't have been holding on to like what the song structure was. I should have actually been in the moment listening to what was going on.
Wow.
And it's a different perspective when you start to realize that you can live that way. That you give yourself a permission structure to do that.
And I feel like that's what drives me to do what I do. It's for people to be plugged in to the universe at all times so that you'll get your best downloads when it comes to music. You get your best downloads if you're writing a book. You're getting your best downloads if you're a business person and trying to come up with a brand new idea. This is what it means to be plugged in. It's not, it's not just to do what I do. It's to live in flow, that you have the universe on your side, like your best friends guiding you,
Well, how do you get into like the first steps to connect with a spirit guide if you're somebody that's starting to go on that path that maybe they've kind of found their way by accident, or this happens and then they're like, oh, I need to dive into this?
Yeah. So the first thing is to believe and know that you have spirit guides. We all do. Okay. It's to know and to believe. Okay. That's the first thing. The second thing is to to find that activity that gets you into the zone, I like to call it, to have your quiet so that you're not thinking about your to-do lists. You're not thinking about, oh, I have to take my kid to school today and I forgot to pick up, cheese from the supermarket, whatever it is. You've got to to dedicate some time, some activity where you can just, get into that zone. So it could be anything. It's not meditation for everybody.
Mhm.
It could be going for a walk, it could be taking a long shower, it could be ironing, could be, washing the dishes, um could be listening to white noise. We all have our ways that we're like, oh, or going for a long drive and suddenly you get all your best ideas.
Mhm.
So we need to find that thing that works for us and do it every day. Dedicate some time. And then the third step is to know how you've been getting your intuitive hits already. So, I hear a voice. So people say, "Oh, I heard a voice. Oh, I just knew this about somebody. Oh, I got goosebumps and I felt like this was the best idea that I ever had." Or got the sinking feeling in my stomach. I had a bad feeling about that situation or that person. So, got to recognize how it is we already get our guidance, and then work through that. Now, the first thing that I ever did when I was embarking on this journey, this was after I saw my spiritual teacher. I just started with yes and no questions. That was my basis. So I would close my eyes, and in my mind's eye, I would visualize a traffic light, and I would say, "Okay, guides," like just like I'm talking to you, I'd be like, "Guides, please show me a red light for no, and please show me a green light for yes." And then I would start asking my questions. So I would visualize it. I would see it with my eyes closed in my mind's eye, and that's how I started. And then eventually I would develop the different ways that I would receive guidance.
So these are kind of like the practical tools of the exercises to like start to get on this path.
Yeah. So sorry. Yeah. That's the most simple way that I can tell you. That's
Hmm.
that's what I did. You could be anywhere and just close your eyes. Green light, red light. But just tell me. But
I think
you've got to be open.
well, you got to be open. Also, I think the problem today is people they got their cell phone, they got their wearable, they getting too many inputs. They're
Yes.
getting overloaded, tons of noise. I'm a child of the '70s, right? And there's the only phone we had was like on the kitchen wall.
Oh, that was me. I know. Me too.
Yeah.
I'm a child of the 70s.
And it's like, it's like we used to have time to have our own thoughts. We used to have toys that didn't tell us what to do, like a Lego or Lincoln Logs. I would just sit there and just imagine things and create my own worlds.
Yes.
And now people are given a world to be in, right? The kids are given a world to be in. Their imagination's being like driven by somebody else's idea. It's not their
100%.
idea.
Yeah.
And it's like, so if you're not open to that kind of dream state of creativity, like, as a musician, part of being a musician is, once you get your 10,000 hours in, you can just pull things out of the air. It just comes to you. You don't have to have the sheet. You just know it, right?
Right.
And it can just happen. Um, and if you never give yourself that opportunity to have that open canvas and then let something come in,
Right.
it's
It's
just
it's
it's just hard.
yeah. It's letting the universe sh- you know, express magic through you. You are a channel. Like especially like musicians. Like they're channels of this light, this intuitive light. It's coming through them. So, and the same with writers. When they have writer's block, that's because it's,
Too much in your
trying
head.
to get it. Yeah, they're too much in their heads. So that's what I would recommend to musicians and writers. It's like just let the universe speak through you.
But I think
Yeah.
it's a permission structure, right? Because some people feel like they have to be led, right? They have to be given the map. They have to be given, and the thing is like, can you actually create your own map?
Right.
And people want to be given the map, You get the
Well,
AAA map
you'll
and
be
just like,
given that map, but it doesn't look like anything that you thought of.
yeah, it's not the one that your physical map. It's like this like it's this thing that just happens,
Right,
and you get this. You're out like Jack Kerouac on the road. It's like, where are you going? I don't know. I'm gonna go find it.
right. And a
And
lot of people wanna have all their ducks in a row, before they start to do anything. Oh, well, gotta do this step A, then step B, then step C. And and what I usually get as guidance is like, just start. Have an intention that you wanna start, create momentum in that area, and then the universe is gonna tell you what all the other ducks are or where they're supposed to be. You just have
yeah,
to be, you know, in that mode of like, I don't know what my next steps are, but I'm going to be guided.
yeah, I think it's hard because a lot of people want something that's kind of given to them.
Yes.
We
Yes.
have all these tools now, and it's really kind of, I feel bad for young people. It's like instead of writing your story, you're doing a prompt
Right.
on
Right.
some kind of AI, and then you hand it in something that looks like you wrote it, but you didn't go through it and you didn't let it happen naturally. You use this
Right.
kind of crutch, and it's just like a producer that uses other people's music as samples instead of actually writing their own music.
Right.
And so people are like, well, I want to get the algorithm. I want to have like the next million cat video. But there's already a bunch of cat videos out there. Why don't you do something authentic? Why don't you show your vulnerable self? Why don't you be willing to kind of deal with the hater, right? That might not like it, but it's you.
Right.
And
Right.
and people are scared to be you. They want to be what's known. And I think what you want to find is that unknown, that like the unfound sound, the unfound art,
Oh, I
not
love
something that
that.
already was there. You know, maybe it's in the universe, but you channeled it rather than somebody just giving it to you.
I love that. I love how you put that. Yes. The unknown you. Yes, exactly that. Exactly.
But spirituality is part of it. Like if you don't believe in spirituality, if you've got a wall and you've got that logical brain that I can't believe that, I
Right.
can't see that, then you'll ignore it. And it could be just coming all around you and you're just ignoring it because you're just scared of it. Is that what some people are just so scared of it they just block it out?
Yeah, they're afraid they're afraid to even see or hear something that's coming from another dimension. Yes, they block it out. I was one of those people. It was my decisions, like from A to Z. I was the one who making the plans. I was in control. I was driving the car. And then there has to be a point of surrender. You surrender and you say, you know what? And that came through my being at rock bottom because I exhausted my avenues. I didn't know where else to turn. So once you surrender and you say, you know what? I trust that you'll take care of me. I trust you, universe, that you will speak through me, that you will guide me. That's when it all happens. So I chose to get in the back seat. I chose not to drive the car anymore. I chose to be totally open.
That's hard
Mhm.
to let go of the reins because like I think it's about control. And
Mhm.
control could be like safety. Because I think a lot of
Yes,
people have a lot of fear.
but it's a
And
false
then s
sense of safety.
yeah, right?
And the more tapped in you are, okay, what is fear? Fear is like, I don't know what's going to happen. Fear of the unknown, anxiety. Okay, it's like anxiety is like, I don't trust that there's a universe out there. I don't trust that I'll be taken care of. So I need to do it myself. So now I feel anxious because I I don't see what's going to happen. I don't know. So when you're tapped into your intuition, when you're tapped into that part of you that does know, that the higher self, it's like you're removing a veil. So you're like, "Oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay my rent." But now you've removed the veil and you're like, "Well, no, actually, money's coming. I'm going to be okay." And it gives us the sense of calm when we're tapped in. We know. Well, you'll know. You'll know that money is coming. You'll know that a relationship is coming. You'll know that that you're on the right path and you're doing the right thing. It's the fear and the anxiety is when we choose to keep these veils over our head as opposed to like just seeing what the universe has in store for us.
Yeah, a lot of times we'll stay in something toxic or codependent because that's known. So I
Correct.
know this, but the unknown of actually getting out of that is more scary than the toxicity of the thing I'm in. And
Exactly.
at some point you hit that, like a crucible moment. But I think you want to be able to have people like not have to hit the crucible moment to be able to get to
Yes.
the universe.
Exactly. I mean, I know I've talked to many women who are maybe in their 40s who are in terrible relationships and they stay in that relationship because they have a fear that they're not going to find another one. Well, how am I ever going to meet someone else? Like, am I ever going to meet someone else? It's easier just to stay in this relationship. But if they could remove that veil and see and know, it's a knowing, I know that I'm going to find the best person ever. I know that I'm not going to be single for the rest of my life. It's a knowing. It's not knowing in your mind, it's knowing in your heart and your soul. When you know, you just know and you're not anxious. You don't fear it. So you would leave a relationship that's toxic because you'd know
Yeah,
that something better is around the corner.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
like a pessimism about like life itself that makes you like not take the action that you need to take.
Right. Right.
And it's frustrating when you run into like the passivity of like restraint.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
like it's like you don't wanna be too extreme and get yourself hurt because you're like not conscious of what you're doing, right? But you have to be willing to kind of like Bowie had this thing where he's like, I don't feel secure as an artist unless I'm treading a little water. And people say, what does that mean? Means like I'm not just gonna phone it in. If I could just do something safe, or I could stretch myself and go into an area where I'm not the best. But trust that if I go in that area, that thing I'm gonna have opportunities, and then be willing to be not like he actually worked with like Luther Vandross,
Yeah.
on the Young Americans. And he went into like R&B and he was doing psychedelic rock. Like like totally different genre. No, your record industry, like, whoa, what are you doing? You shouldn't do that because like we don't know if that's gonna make money, right? But you
Right.
do what you feel is where you need to be. And that
Yes.
that will be the opportunity. And even if it doesn't make money, it's like you have to have experiences in life. It's not all about making the money,
Right.
right? Sometimes it's like that you have to go through something that actually gets you to the next thing. And it could be a
Yes.
couple steps down the road that thing you did that didn't seem to be successful actually was the input you needed to actually make the success.
Right. All the things that were going wrong for me. Sorry, clearing my throat. Um, that's what led me to being on my life's purpose. Because yeah, it didn't feel good at the time. Like, but would I change what was like all those like negative experiences? No, because it helped me connect to my truth. It helped me connect to my soul. Yeah, and the whole point of having these experiences is not to get wiped out by them, but we get sent tests from the universe.
Mhm.
And the truth is it's like we just have to learn how to manage those tests. Like how well are you going to manage? Are you going to totally like crumble? Are you going to just ride the wave?
Yeah, you have to be like, a captain of a ship. You don't want a captain never went through a storm,
Yes.
but you don't
Yes.
want a commander on the field that never actually was in a battle,
Right.
who doesn't know what it means to actually lose. because they don't have to
Exactly.
learn how to react. It's like sometimes you have to be able to roll with the punches, and
Yes.
play the rope a dope, and it looks like you're going down. Like Ali, Muhammad Ali, a lot of times it looked like he was going down,
Right.
but he didn't go down. It's like, but like what is apparently true in one moment is not true in the next moment.
Yes, 100%. It's like all these experiences that we have are are helping get us to the next phase in our lives. Whether on
It's
the outside they look not great, but you
yeah,
know,
it's just people are so into appearances without the substance. Like the universe will
right.
give you substance, and the substance might not be what you wanted at that moment, but it's what you needed at that moment. And maybe you can't
Yeah.
process that because maybe you're not in a place where you can understand it. But eventually, the life's lessons learned. You go through like
Yes.
the looking glass stuff. You go through the kind of an assessment. Like, what have you actually gone through? Can you actually process what happened and actually get to make the right choices once you've got all the information in front of you?
Yeah, and I always ask myself, what was the universe trying to teach me in that moment?
Yeah,
What lessons do I need to learn? You know, there could be so many lessons that you derive from every situation that once you learn them, you are going to break that pattern so it doesn't happen again.
like the
Because
signs. Like you said, the signs. You're seeing signs from your dad. You're seeing like
yes,
the date. The date is giving you a sign.
yeah,
Like you get these premonitions or you get deja vu, and people are like, "Well, like, what is that?" It's like, well, if you ignore it, then it's like you're at your peril. Like if things come in, you gotta read it.
right, right, right. You're missing. Like that's the thing. It's when we start to tune in, we're not going to miss any cues from the universe. The universe is always sending us signs and sending us messages and signals, also in so many different ways. But we can't miss it anymore because we're not using these opportunities. It's like an opportunity when
Yeah.
when when you're being shown the way. It's an opportunity for you.
Do you have like a memorable experience of like helping a client through like an intuitive reading that would kind of give us a sample of like what we've been talking about?
Yeah. So, I mean, I do have a client who totally changed her career after a session. And literally the next day after a session, like I remember telling her, I'm like, I feel like you should just print business cards, even though if you don't know exactly what you want to do. But the business card should encapsulate who you are as a being. And I feel like you should do X, Y, and Z. Like, obviously it's her choice. I
Mhm.
don't want to take away someone's free will, but this was what was coming to me. You would be great at this, and so she started doing it. She created a whole business. Literally the next day, somebody came up to her and said, "So, what do you do?" And she said, I empower people. Like she said who she was without
Mhm.
saying, you know, I'm a plumber or I'm a,
Yeah, yeah.
whatever else. She didn't have a position for herself or a title, but she said, I help people do X. And that person was like, oh my God, I'm looking for somebody who does that. And they hired her that day. And then she started this amazing business around exactly that. So she didn't have a plan. She just got clear about who she was at her core, her essence. So she got clear about the things that lit her up.
Yeah.
Um, and that's all she was clear about. That was, something that I help bring to light. This is who you are. This is your soul's work. Now she didn't know how to, put it into a certain job, and we didn't push her to do that. But the universe sent her a client the next day, and then it developed. She created this thing just from that interaction, that coincidental connection that she made the next day.
But that's like being able to actualize, which a lot of times, like, you
Yes,
can't actualize if you don't actually trust who you are at your core.
exactly.
I think a lot of people are trying to fit in a box that's actually
Yes,
not who they are.
exactly. A lot of us are like, oh, I don't know, should I be a doctor, a lawyer, a musician, whatever else? It's like it's always about what they should be. Maybe you could be who you are in
Mm.
any of those things. So you could your driving force could be like, I want to help people. For example, me, I want to help people see who they really are and connect to their truth. Okay, so did I need to do intuitive readings to do that? No, I could have uh, been an Uber driver. I could have. You could do it in so many different
Yeah, you
ways.
got a lot of different hats. Like, a lot of people,
Yes,
they wear a lot of hats, and then they wanna try to bring it down to one, distill it to one thing,
exactly. But
and
if
if
we
you're
live our
will
lives like
yeah,
connected to who we are, no matter where we are, whether we're in an Uber, at a coffee shop, you name it, and you're just exuding your being of who you are, that's magical.
that's
Because
funny about Uber, 'cause I've for 5 years, I was an Uber driver, just doing it to get extra money for my being a musician, 'cause, musicians were always trying to pay for our guitars,
yeah,
our amps, and pay for the gig before we get paid.
right.
Um, and it became a really good thing in terms of, like, being before I was a podcaster, because I had to, in order to get a good rating, you have to talk to people in the car, right? You have to learn how to listen, be like you almost being like in a barbershop,
Wow. Yes.
right? And you listen to all these people's stories, and you learn how to talk to people. And I'm telling you that, like, working in the Uber helped me be a podcaster.
I believe that. I believe that. You were doing your life's mission even while you were driving people around.
Yeah, and it even helped me in my business as an IT guy, because it helped me be better in at public speaking or being in a meeting, and
Yes.
actually being able to communicate what I was trying to get across, and getting the management to understand what I'm trying to say. Because it's one thing to communicate, but not do it successfully. Like, if you're in a meeting and the people don't get what you're saying, then
Right.
you don't get the opportunity, because you didn't connect. So if you learn how to actually say something that's gonna actually cut through the mix, it's gonna cut through the noise, and somebody actually, "Oh, that's what you mean?"
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
it's an art to actually learn how to get people to hear you, right?
Right. Wow. That's amazing.
But I think it's like being able to connect moments in your life to, decisions, in things that happen to you, and see it. Like, I was a cancer survivor, age 27, I had a level 3 sarcoma.
Wow.
Pre-cancer, I was scared to, like, everything. 27-year-old, I didn't know what I wanted to do, I didn't know how, and then post-cancer, I said, "Hey, I kicked cancer's butt." And it's like, "Why should I be scared?" I went to Japan. Then I started doing things, instead of being in the back and a musician, I actually started singing my songs. I was a keyboardist, and I wasn't singing, I was playing behind other people. And so once I got, it's like, if I'm not scared of cancer, why should I be scared of that? So then I looked at it as a sign that I can win, right? I
Wow.
won
That's amazing.
that, and then so some things happen to you, and you could look at it and say, "Well, why did that happen to me?" That's what I'm like, you could be down in the dumps. You could be think like everything's over. cancer for me was an opportunity. And it was like, well, how could you look at it like that? But it
That's
was.
amazing. Yes, because it helped you, remove the fear for everything else. It's incredible.
So it's like when the signs come to people, it's like you have to look at it as like, is that really negative? Right? Because some things do come at you and you don't read it right. Right? You have to read the things that come at you with different lenses. Right?
Yeah, 100%. So, a lot of times we focus on the thing. So like, cancer did this to me or this person did this to me. And usually the way I kind of get my head around it is I'll take out the person's name or the thing and I'll say the universe did this to me, sent me this challenge. So it doesn't feel so heavy. Okay, the universe sent me this challenge. So what can I do? Where is the opportunity here? As opposed to this person, did this, that, and the other, and treated me like this. I don't look at it that way. I'm like, the universe sent that person to me for a reason. So let's just look at that. What's the reason? And once
Yeah.
you figure that out, you're in flow again.
It
The
was like the
universe.
other, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's like, resentments and like blaming other people.
Yes.
Like, instead of like looking at, if you just look at how things are coming at you or coming like around you, right? Or coming from you.
Right.
And then taking some like, reading the tea leaves, right? And actually seeing, okay, I did this and then this happened. They did that and then that happened. Then things around me happened. Like what part did I play in it? What part did they play in it? What part did the universe play in it? And seeing things in a holistic way instead of saying everything is somebody else's fault, right? Without seeing the interconnected of like what part did you have to play in it?
100%. I mean, everything's perfectly orchestrated for us. Everything. So, are you going to fight it or are you just going to accept it and move on? It's like, okay, it is what it is. Somebody could be, not able to pay their rent. Okay, it is what it is. I'm sure the universe will come bring me a solution. It is what it is. That's my motto. It is what it
Yeah.
is. The universe created it this way for me, and we'll get through it. And having that mindset that you're always going to get through it and there is a bigger purpose for all of it, you're not going to get stuck in your problems anymore. You're like, okay, gonna keep on going. Kind of like what's her name, Dory in Finding Nemo. Keep on moving, keep on moving.
A movie, yeah, was the idea of like, the law of attraction. Like if you have this mindset, like that you can read the frequencies and it's like if you're in a dissonance, right? And everything's like it's dissonant, it's discordant, where you're kind of out of tune,
Yeah,
right? So if
yeah,
you go towards something that's going to put you more in harmony, or at least get you into a melodic resonance, then you're gonna, something's making something dissonant because maybe you're not supposed to be there. Maybe you're
100%.
supposed to be over here. And so, like, if you keep on bucking it and not going where you actually are, the universe is pointing you in a different direction, but you're not taking the cue.
100%. And what's interesting is when you are open to receiving guidance from your guides, it's like a radio station. It's like a frequency. You've got to be vibing at a higher level in order to be open or ready to hear or receive whatever it is that they have to say. So every time you're like being a victim, like, oh, this happened to me, and you lower that frequency and you're not able to be guided. So the key really is to just keep vibing high. You vibe high, you trust that everything, there's a bigger picture here in play.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's when you're able to connect with your spirit guides.
Yeah, get that harmonic resonance because I think
Yes.
if you resonate at that frequency, kind of like there's like this universal key, right? Or
Yes.
multiple universal keys. You hit that key, then the spirit guide's going to show up. Then you're actually going to be able to see it. You're going to be able to feel it.
Right.
But if you keep on bucking it, and then you're like you're not in tune. Like you're out of tune. Like a guitar is like if it's out of tune, it's not going to fit in the piece, right? It's not going to go along with all the other instruments because it's not in the same resonance. It's not going to work. Now there are variations where if you layer things that you could kind of be there, you kind of get yourself into it, you nudge yourself into it. So it could be a progression where you could tweak yourself into it, or you could go further away from it.
Yes. Exactly that. Exactly. I love how you put that. Yeah. It's
I
exactly
always
that.
like to use musical terms because, like, you get the guys like trying to get in tune, trying to get in there. Like, there's some harmonic It could work, or it could be totally discordant and doesn't work at all, and it goes into
Exactly. It's
this
like
noise.
you're out of tune. Right.
Yeah, it
It's
doesn't
exactly
doesn't
that.
work. Yeah, it's just dissonance and noise and discordance. And in some places, like where that could work in a punk rock song, it's not gonna work in a progressive song where everybody's supposed to have 4 or 5 part harmony. It's not working.
Exactly. Wow. I love that.
But these signs that people like have to be open to, spirit animals walking up to you or flying to you, you know, coming up to you like, like a jumping spider, and you could be scared of spiders, and then you actually realize that the jumping spider is, you had a fear of arachnids, and then suddenly you start looking at the jumping spider, and it's like, hey, it's cute.
Yeah.
It's a friend. It's not an enemy.
Right.
But like you could have, because year before you could be running away as this, you want to stomp on it. Now you want it to be in your life.
So true. It's funny because my husband's grandmother always comes as a butterfly, and and it's the same kind of butterfly. It's a monarch butterfly, always right by my face. If I'm riding a bike or something, she'll just come as the butterfly. So yeah, our spirit guides use animals and insects and butterflies and birds to show up for us as well. you know so I always feel like she's protecting me,
Mm-hmm.
and it's always when I'm out doing something maybe not so safe, like bike riding, or my son's on his skateboard, or
A little protective
so I'm
animal.
like,
Yeah.
oh, so
Give you a nice,
I'll talk to the butterfly. I'll say thank you because I know it's her.
yeah,
I know it's
that's
her.
just cool to be in tune with the universe around, you know, because like
Yeah.
we found a ladybug. It's the middle of winter in New Hampshire, and there's a ladybug. We always see that as like a good sign when our ladybug shows up.
Right.
Every year the ladybug shows up in the middle of winter in our house, and it kind of gives us a sign. It's like, hey, and we read it, and it's like, yeah, things are looking up, and people are like all freaked out about things like going on. And it's like, well, hey, things are looking up for us.
Yeah.
The ladybug showed up again. We're on the right path. And so it's like
Right.
how you look at things, that you could get overwhelmed with the noise of other certain media that you get, or signals you're getting from other things telling you everything's like the end,
Right.
versus like you see other things as like, hey, it's an opportunity, it's not the end, you know and that's
Exactly.
a different way to be, where you don't have to be like down in the dumps.
Yes.
You could be looking for like new horizons. Saying it's the end of horizon.
Exactly. I love that. It's so true. It's like if we could see I always use this analogy actually with a lot of my clients. Okay, especially those who are having, the doubts that anything's going to change for them. There's a guy who has $100 in his bank account, and he wins the lottery. He wins $1 million. So he gets the check for $1 million. He goes to the bank with the check, and the teller says, it's going to take 7 to 10 days for this check to clear. And he leaves the bank with $100. But he is the happiest man on the planet because he knows that this check is coming. He knows that he's going to have the millions. But the truth is, like, in reality, he still only has $100. So nothing actually changed.
Yeah.
But what changed is that he knew, and he knew it was coming. And this is how we all should change our mindsets into knowing that the universe has these gifts for us. We just haven't deposited our check yet. Doesn't mean it's not there and it's not coming. It is. And
it's like every day that you're still here, there's an opportunity to move the needle, right?
Yes.
And there's some people who think it doesn't matter. The needle's not going to move. It's going to go the other way. And it's really, you're controlling the needle, right? And the universe will give you the opportunity to move the needle if you're willing to do the work, right? Which means you need to listen, right? And a lot of times we don't listen. We don't listen to each other. We don't listen to ourselves. We don't listen to the universe. And it's not that hard. It's a matter of like being open to listening.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And sometimes, listening doesn't mean necessarily like listening. It could mean
a different kind of listening.
It's a different kind of listening. You could hear a voice. You could see images in your mind's eye. You could feel something in your body, the sensations. There's so many different ways that we listen to the universe.
Yeah, it's that spirituality of like there's nonverbal communication. There's senses, like you just feel something, you get a vibe.
Right.
You get that vibe, right? And like if they got 4 musicians together, we don't even say anything, right? But we somehow know what to do together. Now, that's because we're in sync. We're in tune. Like our frequencies are aligned. We're kind of law of attraction. We're in the right. That band got the right people in the right positions. You bring somebody new in, they might be out of sync. They might be able to get in sync, but when they first come in, they don't have that. So like that's something like it's hard to actually. And when you try to say, well, how can we get Johnny to be in? Get it. Well, if Johnny doesn't get it, he might not get it.
Right.
Because it's like you give him a chance, and not that you're gonna push him out, but it's like if he doesn't pick it up, then it doesn't work, right? So
because Johnny's in his head. Johnny is not in his flow.
He can't get it.
He won't get it. Yes, and especially like a lot of musicians have like performer's anxiety. That's also, it's like that's when they're in their heads. Like, how am I going to be perceived? How am I going to show up? So we got to just drop all that and just say, you know what, universe, like use me as a channel to play this music, to be at my highest frequency. And that's when it will all happen. Like we got to get out of our heads about it. Got to be in flow.
Sometimes, some musicians, they wreck their whole day. And the only time they're happy is when they're on stage because they're so anxious about getting on stage.
Yes.
And then once they get on stage, it's great. And then they get off stage and then it all comes back.
Right.
All the doubts, all the questions. But then when they're in the zone, they're fine. Like they get on stage and zone. It's like they need to find a way to have that zone get into the rest of their life, because like then they end up having a lot of problems because they can't, like that zone's only gonna last 2 hours, 3 hours. What are you gonna do with the other 21 hours?
So that's why I it's funny you said getting in the zone. That's what I always call it. I got to get myself in the zone. If I'm having an anxiety filled day, which is very rare nowadays, but if it does happen, I will do those activities like I mentioned before, like listening to the white noise, taking a shower, long shower, going for a walk in nature. Those are the things that help me get myself in the zone. So, for those musicians out there who think that getting into the zone only happens on stage, you can extend your zone, span.
Yeah, you can just make it party like this idea of now I got into Buddhism many years ago after the cancer
Mm,
because it kind of spoke to me in terms of what I practice. I practice like it's like a Japanese type of Buddha. It's like Nichiren Daishonin. It's based in Japan,
mm.
and it just spoke to me. It happened when I went to Japan back in 2004, but I just felt connected to it, and it just made me feel more centered, and I just found something. Not that I'm telling everybody to find that, but once you find some kind of spirituality, some kind of connection
Yes.
that makes your life work, right, and work with other pieces of your life, because there's multiple facets to anybody, and that's what is what people have to get out of the box, right, to open that up, where I think like the intuition and spirituality is like you find whatever works for you. I'm not telling anybody to find one thing, but like at least look for it, right?
Yes. That's great advice. You should listen.
But
Yes.
like the link we have is a YouTube link I found that you gave us, and that YouTube link, like what is that YouTube video that we have below? It was on your pod match. There was a YouTube link that we used, but I made it
Uh,
so it was more usable. But it's like
uh,
what's
I have to be honest, I don't remember what this link
Yeah, it was
was.
whatever you have on Podmatch, there's a recommended YouTube link, but it was super long, so I brought it down
Oh.
to that, but I'm not sure.
Um,
But do you
yeah,
have a
I
different
don't
link you want
remember.
people to go to that might be more useful for
Like
them? Or
my
you have
my website, you mean?
yeah, 'cause if you send
Yeah,
me that, I can actually make that like
I
a
will send you that. I'm so sorry. I'm spacing.
no, you
This is
if
I'm
you
like I'm so in the zone. I'm like, what
that's fine. But
what
it,
YouTube link did I put on there? I don't remember.
yeah, it's on
Yeah,
your profile, but,
okay.
yeah, if you mentioned through the private chat, I can actually replace that and put that up.
Okay, so
If you give me that, I'll put a different one up.
okay. So
Okay,
there.
yeah, there we go. And then I'm gonna use that. And so that's going up right now. And here we go. Yeah, so if people
Okay.
go to Michelle Loeb,
Galoob.
Galoob.com,
.com.
what will they find there?
So it's my website. I have different offerings. I offer one-on-one sessions. I also I also teach people how to tap into their intuition. So I have an upcoming workshop actually on February 23rd. It's a 3-hour intensive workshop where you will be able to learn to trust your guidance in this case. So yes, so I do that. I teach, I do sessions for people, and that's all on there.
That's awesome. But I want to let people know that will be fully clickable on all the platforms. We're in the podcast description. So like on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, or Spotify, or Apple, in the podcast description, that website will be clickable and people will be able to go right to it. And we do recommend everybody who listens or watches the podcast to actually click on the URLs of the guests there on the show so they can get further details about what we've been talking about in there. So if you click there, you'll be able to connect to Michelle that way. And I want to thank you again for being a guest on the show. I think we had a really interesting discussion about how to get into trusting your inner compass, which is something I think a lot of people need help with. And
Yeah.
if you want to check out that link so you can get more details and dive into it further, we do encourage you to do that. And I want to thank you for being a guest
Thank
on the
you
Family
so much.
Ghost podcast today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I loved it.
It's been great. Have a great rest of your Sunday.
You too. You
Thank you.
too.